Hello, sir. Fine, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, it's the same one, sir. Is it not? The one you sent. Is it the same program, sir? Okay. Just a minute, sir. Just a minute, sir. Data.
Hello? Hello? Zadoromu? Well, hello? Báwo ni?
Hello, sir.
Aha, báwo ni?
Hello, sir.
Mi ò gbọ́ yín.
Mi mà gbọ́ ohun tó ń sọ. Hello, sir. Mo ń bọ̀. Láti ọ́díò mi báyìí. Láti ọ́díò mi.
Mute. Hello?
So we are going to mute everybody now.
Okay.
And I'm going to do that right away. Everybody now muted, except for the speaker. So the speakers, we are going to send messages to the speakers now to unmute themselves. The facilitator. We get a notification to mute themselves now.
All right, so me need to clean up.
You actually need if you have.
No, I don't have them.
So all the facilitators are getting notifications to mute themselves.
Okay, so we can start. Just a minute, sir. Let's get everybody on mute. So.
At mute.
Okay. The Vice Chancellor is unmuted. No. The DVC Academic is unmuted.
Is that?
Yes, sir. We can hear
Okay.
you. Professor Additional is unmuted. Yeah, I'm here. Professor Lubade is unmuted.
The VC is not unmuted though.
We'll
Hello?
send him a notice to unmute himself now, sir.
Okay.
And as we get additional list of the facilitators, they will be unmuted as the program continues. So I think we're at a point where we can start the program proper and ask Professor Additional to start the meeting officially. Professor Additional, over to you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And please welcome to this afternoon session. We want to thank all the presenters who were part of the morning session. Thank you for coming on board again. I've seen the DVC academic, Professor Bamire is there. I can see
Yes.
Professor Adirumu there. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I can see Professor Sen is there. And I've seen Mrs. Professor Aina. I saw her just now. So we're going to start. I assume all the discussants are already in the house. Professor Bilade. Professor Bilade, she's in already.
The Vice Chancellor.
Is in. Okay.
The VC is there.
The Vice Chancellor.
The VC is there.
The Vice Chancellor is online.
So I want to welcome the DVC academic to make a statement. The presentation this afternoon is actually a repeat of what we had in the morning. And we hope that if there are anything to add to what presenters made in the morning, they will have noted them and they will be putting them in during this afternoon session. So I want to welcome the DVC Academy for.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes,
yes.
Okay, great. I want to welcome everyone to this session, this afternoon session of the webinar series for TETFund NRF 2020, specifically for the call for concept notes. I want to specifically welcome our Vice Chancellor in person of Professor Yitokwe Ogunbodede, on whose permission we are actually holding this webinar. And we want to thank him also for his time, because he has a lot of files on his table and he had to leave a lot of them to be able to join this session. So we want to thank him. And with respect to the fact that the caliber of the discussions that we have on ground, he took his time to ensure that, based on his interest in research and his input in this program, that he will be part of the program. Sir, we want to thank you a lot for being there at all times. I also want to welcome the discussants. These are highly respected and distinguished academics who have a lot of experience and exposure within and outside the shores of Nigeria. And we want to really appreciate their efforts, believing that at least we're going to gain a lot from their various presentations. I want to specifically recognize Professor E.B. Faculty of Agriculture, who is the sponsor of this webinar series. We want to appreciate him for his contributions and also appreciate him for accepting to make a presentation at short notice. This is highly appreciated. I also want to recognize Professor Biladi, who is the chairperson of the TETFund office, and who has a lot of experience understanding the various operations of TETFund. So we are believing that we're going to gain a lot from her. I also recognize Professor Aina, who is the national level. And with the experiences, we are believing that we're going to make a very good headway this time around. I also recognize Professor Aderomu, the Dean of the Faculty of Technology, who is a 2019 grantee of the TETFund, and also a member of the TETFund committee at the national level. Let me also appreciate Professor Oseni, who is the director of the University Research Office, and who has coordinating the various activities therein. He is also the coordinator of the network that we are using. I also want to recognize all participants, all researchers and research teams that are here present for this webinar, for their time and their commitment and interest in being part of the team that is going to move OAU forward. The Executive Director, Central Office of Research, and Professor Kehinde Taiwo want to appreciate you for the various efforts in ensuring that we have a very good webinar series. I want to say this is the first virtual meeting that is being organized by Central Office of Research and TETFund office in order to relate with researchers within the campus. And this is a very great feat. The 2019 interaction was a face-to-face one, but this is another dimension arising from the COVID-19 pandemic that we have before us now. But it's a good thing. The main goal of this particular webinar is to ensure massive mobilization of OAU researchers and research teams in response to the TETFund NRF call for concept notes and proposals. In 2019, we had 99 submissions, but the target this time around is to move beyond 99 to have over 300 submissions to maintain an institutional lead in grantsmanship and research. The topics are salient components of the National Research Fund call. So I want to enjoy all participants to listen attentively and not miss any part of these presentations in order to submit eventually highly competitive concept notes. So once again, I want to welcome everyone and wish you all the best, even as we listen to our various discussants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, the DVC. I'd like to welcome the Vice Chancellor to make his opening remarks. VC, sir.
Thank you very much, Executive Director
of our Central Office of Research. This webinar series is something that we cherish in the university, in the sense that it's actually repositioning the university for greater exploits as far as research is concerned. I want to especially appreciate the Executive Director, Central Office of Research, Professor Adeshina, the Director of the University Research Committee, Professor Husseini, and also the presenters, Professor Shonaya, Professor Obilade, Professor Aderomu, Professor Aino, Professor Olugbade, and the moderators. I know that the one in the morning was moderated by Mrs. Kehinde Taiwo and Professor Akinola. Let me also, at this point, especially appreciate the ANSOAUW for sponsoring this webinar. We are very grateful to Professor Funsho Shonaya, who is actually leading the group and who is also a facilitator for the program. We thank you very much, sir. I also would like to appreciate the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic, Professor Bamire, for coordinating the entire effort. And I think at this point too, we must realize that we never used to have a TETFund office in OAU until we thought we were losing quite a lot of money. We were not meeting our requirements and our deadlines as far as TETFund was concerned. So we thought of a way of going around that, and we felt that there should be a TETFund office. And so Professor Mr. Ladidano was appointed the chair of the TETFund office, and she performed excellently well in that office. But I'm glad that after Professor Mr. Ladidano, Professor Bilade has continued to fly the flag even higher than it was before. So thank you very much, ma'am. I would like to take more time because I have just 5 minutes to give this welcome address and to formally open it. So, but I've noticed that there are quite a number of our professors, you know, of the 89 members, participants now, we have quite a number of our professors. So while I may not be able to mention everybody's name, so I would like to thank Professor Kwande, Professor Adesunkomi, Professor Akamu, Dean of Pharmacy, Professor Aransi, Professor Alatiche, Professor Aransiola, Professor Salami. So, and also Engineer Komi Adewara and his team for coordinating the Zoom meeting too. Let me also at this point say that I initially saw Professor Mike Faborode, but looking behind it, I found that we have Dr. Mrs. Faborode with us. So I want to welcome her specially, and I want to thank her for being part of this. So I wish you a very fruitful deliberation, and I thank everybody who has contributed, all the participants that are here. Thank you very much. On that note, I will want to formally declare the session open. Thank you.
Thank you, the Vice Chancellor, sir, for those comments. We'll go to take the first presentation this afternoon. And we're going to invite Professor Funsho Shunaya to make his presentation. You have 10 minutes, Prof. Sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I hope I can share my slide now. But I first want to assure everybody that I am Funsho Shunaya. In spite of the beard that you see there, which grew during lockdown, I am still Funsho Shunaya. And I want the Vice Chancellor to take note so that they will not think there is somebody else doing my job. Okay. So if it's possible, I've sent the PowerPoint. Is it possible to use that? Or should I use my own screen?
Yes. Kindly ask him to use his own.
Sir, we hope you will maintain the way you are now, sir.
I'm not sure about that, sir. So share a screen. And okay. It's okay. I thought. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes.
You are seeing my slides?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I'm talking on funding, research, development, and innovation. I'm trying to encourage everyone that don't only apply for TETFund, but keep applying for funding, because you need that to support your research, your development, and innovation activities. And I want to start by looking at with or without funding. With funding, you can publish. Without funding, you will perish academically. With funding, you publish and flourish. Without funding, you publish and perish. With funding, you do problem-solving research. Without funding, you write no solution papers, papers that do not contain any solutions to our problems. With funding, you can obtain research results that contribute to development. Without funding, your research results will be unrelated to development. With funding, you can maintain your research focus so that you can provide innovations. But without funding, you would not be able to maintain your research focus, and you may not be able to get any innovation. So let's discuss those 5 points: publish or perish. The best Scopus journals have substantial pay charges. My own 2019 experience is that the Nigerian Journal of Animal Production was charging 5,000 naira per page. And the Tropical Animal Production and Health Journal, open access, was charging 4,500 euros per paper, which is about 2 million naira. So what do I mean by publish and perish? There are miracles, vanity, not referee, doubtful, what we call Kamlaraj in OAU journals. They still charge, but they are more affordable. Their impact factor and citation index are very poor. Hence, publishing in these Kamlaraj journals make you unseeable by your colleagues. That means you perish academically. What about funded research? Funds make problem-solving research possible. For example, the Nigerian poultry industry that I belong to has problems with appropriate breeds, appropriate feeds, appropriate production and environmental control, appropriate processing and value addition to products, and market and consumer awareness. The African Chicken Genetic Gains is a platform for testing, delivering, and continuously improving tropically adapted chickens for productivity growth in sub-Saharan Africa. This was a funded project for 5 years. ACGG tested 6 breeds on 2 experimental stations and on the farms of 2,100 farmers in 5 states throughout Nigeria. This cost 100 million naira per year, and that is 70 million naira per breed per year to be tested. Most of the money went on personnel costs, for we had to hire 60 full-time field officers, as you can see on the right, full-time national office officers, and so on. So funding makes it possible for you to support your work. Contribution to development. ACGG identified 2 poultry breeds that were developed in Nigeria, Funab Alpha from Funab and Noila from Amo Farms in Awe. These 2 breeds gave 200 to 300% of the body weight and egg production of the local chickens. Noila is commercially available to poultry farmers in all the 36 states and FCT. This feat was achieved with an additional development grant of 300 million naira given to Amo Farms based on ACG results and recommendation. Funding helps to maintain focus. Multiple sources of funding are important to maintain research focus that will lead to innovation. I switched my research focus in 1987 from broiler chickens, which are single purpose, intensively produced, to family poultry, dual purpose, they are semi-intensive or extensively produced. To maintain that focus for 32 years, I received 19 grants, 9 research, 8 development, 3 equipment from 14 funding agencies for a total of 7.1 million naira, 18,000 Canadian dollars, 33,000 Deutschmark, and 2.7 million US dollars. My last slide talks about the hierarchy of responsibility in funding. It's a pyramid. At the tip of the pyramid, you find the funding sources. The government, like TETFund, and grant-giving organizations. They've done their own. They've made funds available, and they do make funds available. In the middle is the university. The university has a responsibility to facilitate and reward grants people. And specifically, the Central Office of Research and the URO need to train, promote, and facilitate grant preparation. The bursary, the grants and agencies specifically, need to operate a researcher-friendly grant administration. But at the base of this pyramid,
you have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. At the base of this pyramid are the individual researchers and research teams. They must generate the ideas, they must prepare the proposals, they must execute the research projects, and they must write reports that are acceptable. It is when we do this that we keep our research, development, innovation cycle going. Thank you very much.
Can we give Prof a round of applause, please? Thank you, Prof, for that presentation. It's like we allow you to continue to go on. Now, let me assure our participants that the presentations will be available after the meeting. So we go to the next presentation. It's going to be given by Professor Bilade. Professor Bilade, you have the floor. Professor Bilade.
Hello?
Welcome.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and I will try to be brief. I'm supposed to talk about timelines and guidance for this NRF by TETFund. The first thing is the submission deadline. The submission deadline for TETFund Abuja is 21st of July, 2020. But the deadline for submission to OAU IFE TETFund office is 13th July 2020. My PowerPoint has been sent to the office. I don't know why it's not being projected. And the submission is to TETFund office at oauife.edu.ng. TETFund office, one word, small case. TETFund office at oauife.edu.ng. Why are we asking that people submit their concept note by the 13th of July? The reasons are this. We need to ensure proper internal assessment. We must do that so that we are sending out proposals that have passed through our own internal assessment. We also need to enable the operational efficiency of the meticulous assessment mechanism that we have put in place. If we don't make use of it, then we may be sending out proposals that are a bit substandard. And finally, we must make allowance for enough time to submit the proposals so that we are avoiding last-minute rush and inherent technological disappointment. So what do we assess? We assess the phase and content validity. What do we assess when we talk about phase validity? We start from the front page. Professor Aderomu spoke the other time, and he will still speak extensively on some of these things. Professor Anantu did. So we need to pay attention. Right from the front page, the information required must be there, must be in compliance with the way the mode is required. The uploading of the picture must be colored picture, very clear. The other time, some people uploaded pictures that were not too clear. We had to send it back. And it helped our submission. Mr. Okobe of the TETFund office, OAU, when he took our submission to Abuja, the university was commended. Whereas some other universities had their own we also look at the timeline. How workable is the timeline in line with what the PI and the team would like to investigate? We look at the budget items. What percentage of A, what percentage of the total should A be? If it is more than that, some people are around to guide us because of their previous experience and the knowledge gained. We also look at the budget items. Some items are not supposed to be there. If you are putting too much money for a particular thing, then we tell you to reduce it, because we see a lot of people just walking a little bit to the answer, and that could also spell doom. Then we look at the composition of the research team. I think Professor Aderomu in the earlier one made mention of this, and I'm sure he will. Some of those things, I'm sure the one he gave the example of must have been some of those who sent directly to TETFund Abuja without passing through TETFund OAU, because we insisted that the team leader should be a professor, an associate professor, at worst, a senior lecturer. And we insisted that the team should also be made up of persons who have the capacity, and also maybe one or two people who are mentored, who are going to be mentored in the whole process. Those ones will be right at the bottom of the list, but they should be part of it, because the NRF, the research proposal, and the research funding is also to mentor our colleagues for the future. And so we had examples of persons who brought in, with all due respect to the technical staff, a technical assistant as the next person to a professor. And we said, no, the grant was not to train technical persons in the university. It's to train people for the, to train the capacity of academic staff to undertake research. So what do we look at the content validity when we talk of content? This is, the validity of this is undertaken by a team of experts in the various thematic areas. And we are lucky in the university. We have people with previous experience who are members of the monitoring and evaluation of NRF at the national level. And so we a lot of the time we make use of them. We try to get them to come in. We send the data to them, the information to them, and they give us advice that we return back. And so I want to appeal that we keep to the timeline. If we don't keep to the timeline, we use necessary pressure on our colleagues and on the staff of both the Central Office of Research and the TETFund office. And these are pressures that we could really do without. And also, we want to appeal that all submissions must pass through this process to avoid submissions that may embarrass the university. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Prof. For the presentation you spent, you left some 2 minutes for us.
Thank you.
So we go to the next presentation. It's going to be made by Professor Aderomu, Critical Elements in the NRF 2020 call. Professor Aderomu.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity to be part of this meeting. I want to speak on critical elements in the NRF 2020 call for concept notes. Actually, I forwarded my PowerPoint to the committee, and I'm sorry I can't share my PowerPoint here because I'm using my phone to do the presentation. For the outline of this presentation, I'm going to briefly introduce the concept notes and the reason why we need to develop the concept notes, and also look at some of the critical elements that we are doing assessment, and also to conclude this presentation. Well, for the concept note, it is just a brief outline of your proposed research and the purpose. One is to capture the interest of the funding agency, and number 2 is to demonstrate that your idea you are preparing is worth further consideration. Okay, thank you. It's worth further consideration. Now, there's need for us to really understand the funder before we go ahead to develop our concept notes, because this is very, very key. You have a lot of information in the guideline provided, so you need to really digest this, because by the time you miss some points out of it, it will knock your concept paper out of the way. And that is why before you lay your hand on the concept note, you need to really understand the funder, this time around the TETFund. So I want to advise that you go to the TETFund document and also to link up with the Central Office of Research and the OAU TETFund office for any further clarification. In terms of the critical elements, the first thing I want to discuss here is the title of the proposed research. The title of the proposed research, which maximum is supposed to be 20 words. And I want to say that the title of the proposed research is more important than what you think. Very, very important, and should be interesting. It should be precise, and it should be descriptive. Also, the title must be very, very clear, very simple, no jargon, no overstatement. It's just a brief summary of what is to be researched. And if you are confused, you can check and evaluate the title of funded proposals. For example, last year now, there are a lot of concept notes accepted, approved. You can link up with the TETFund office to look at examples of titles, and then based on that, you can come up with your own title. So the title is very key, and the title must flow along with the content of the concept note. If not, your concept note is going to be thrown out. It happens to some of our colleagues, not from OAU, but some other university, where the title does not even correspond to the content of the concept note. So automatically, we just try to ignore it. The second aspect that you need to look at is thematic area. Please, you need to pick the right thematic area. This is very, very key. For example, last year too, some people submitted their concept notes to cross-cutting. Meanwhile, the concept note is supposed to go to science, technology, and innovation. So it becomes a very big problem. So you need to be very, very careful. Thematic area is key. Ensure that you pick the right thematic areas to for your concept notes. Then background to research. You don't need to be too detailed. Okay. The background to research is looking at the details of the project, including definition of research problems, as well as justification for the research. But just be very straightforward. By the time you are developing the full proposal, you can give a lot of detailed information. The maximum for this concept note is 1,500 words. So you have to be specific and be more focused on what you are trying to write. The same thing with the statement of the problem and research question. Of course, if you don't have problem to solve, you cannot develop any proposal. So this aspect is very, very key. State clearly the problem to be addressed. State clearly the problem to be addressed. Once you're able to state clearly the problem to be addressed, then your objectives of the research will be very easy for you to develop. Objective of the research will be very easy for you to develop. And also the literature review, the theoretical framework, and research methodology. In fact, this aspect carry about the concept note. So you have to really pay attention to this aspect very well. The review. And for the concept notes now, maximum that NRF is trying to specify is just about 5 references. So what I just advise is that look for the current related works to what you are trying to develop. By the time you are writing the full proposal, you can come in with a lot of other references. But for now, let us look at related references that are current for now. And for the next one is the potential for scientific breakthroughs. What we are looking at here is there any new thing in what you are trying to present? Or if it is not new, is there any improvement on what you are trying to work on? What is the value addition that you are trying to add to the research you are presenting? So this aspect is very key. Then the expected result, of course, what are those things that you want to achieve by the time you are trying to that area? So those aspect two is very, very key. Expectation. Then the expected impact in terms of short and long-term impact. This is also very key. And then you have to just give some bullet points because you have time to really develop it into in detail later. But for the concept notes, you don't need to really write much. Just try to capture and summarize the impact of the proposal. Then the total estimated budget is very, very important. In fact, we rejected a lot of concept notes last year because of the budget. The maximum is 50 million. Then you need to be sure that your budget is very, very realistic. The question we normally ask is, how realistic is this budget? You want to, you develop your concept note and you are telling us that you need about 48 million to carry out the research. Out of the 48 million now, you are spending about 28 million or 30 million on travels. So it's not realistic. In fact, one of the proposals was rejected because of that. Because the travel now carried about 50 or 60% of the fund. And that was why the TETFund now put a limit of 5% to travels now, because people just hide under travels and put a lot of money there. So you have to be very, very careful. You have to be realistic in terms of your budget. And I want to advise that these are some of the problems that we've seen in the last few years when we are trying to review. Common problems. Some of our colleagues will prepare their budgets in a hurry. And some of them will be asking for round sum, which indicates to me carelessness. The maximum is 50 million, and you are asking TETFund to give you 50 million. I mean, the reviewer will be suspecting you. So, and then asking for the maximum, that is a bad attitude. And then, in fact, sometimes some of our colleagues do a kind of arithmetic mistakes, which I think is carelessness. So we have to be very careful with respect to the budget. It's very key to this aspect too. Then I'm trying to suggest some suggestions for developing your budget. I'm saying that you have to develop your budget carefully. You must be honest when you are developing your budget. You have to be precise, and you do not ask for maximum. Don't forget that most of these concepts will go to your colleagues in your research area. So if you are claiming that you want to spend about 25 million on equipment, he's aware of all those equipment, and they can tell you that you could do need more than 5 million there. So you have to be very, very honest. You have to be precise, and then I'm advising that you don't ask for the maximum. For references too, this is key. In this concept notes now, the request is that you don't need more than 5 references. So what I've just advised is look for the most recent 5 references and then add into your concept notes. By the time you are writing your full proposal, you can give a lot of other related works. But for now, I'm suggesting that let us look for relevant and up-to-date reference materials. The research team, this is also very, very key, as mentioned by Professor Obila. In fact, last year, there was a proposal from the Department of Electronic and Electrical Engineering. In fact, when we read those proposals, everybody happy to say that this is a very good proposal. But the first thing that the committee noted on that proposal was that the PI, electoral one from the Electronic and Electrical Engineering Department, and then you have a list of other professors as members of the team. And the question the chairman raised, is this man trying to mentor the professors? Supposed to be the other way around. So, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sir?
2 minutes.
Okay, sir, I will round up now. So eventually, the proposal was rejected on the basis that the PI is not qualified to handle that proposal. So I want to advise that minimum, as requested by NRF, should be senior lecturer, and then there should be element of mentoring and also multidisciplinary in terms of allow the research to be in your department alone. Look for other departments that you can collaborate, private sectors, other universities. In fact, collaboration is very key here. And this one carries about 15 marks. So if you are able to package this aspect very well, I'm sure that you are going to really make it. In terms of conclusions, I just want to give some tips for developing the concept notes. I'm saying that do not overwhelm the assessor with details. For now, we don't need details. Go straight to the point. You have to be positive and definite. And then I'm saying that appearance is very important. The concept note that you are presenting now is representing you. So you have to ensure that you submit a very robust and winning concept note. I want to stop for now so that maybe by the time you want to ask questions, I can throw more light into it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you, Prof. We very much appreciate that presentation. Our participants will have opportunities to ask questions after we've listened to all of the presentation. So we'll move ahead to listen to the next presentation, which is on hints for success in the NRF application. Professor Labisa. Sorry, no? Can you?
Can you see my slide? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for inviting us to share this moment with you. Most of the things, since Professor Aderomo and myself are in the committee, we are likely to have a lot of overlaps. So I will just quickly summarize as much as possible, not to repeat. But I start from, you know, some of the remarks that we had after the last round of NFF grant for 2019. What I've listed here is actually a summary of the reasons why some of the proposals were not granted. I will not belabor them, but because he has spoken about them, it's about your research scope. Your scope should not be too small. If your scope is small, then it should be under the small grant system that is within the university. So any research you are submitting, you might write it might look very good, but we ask, for example, what is the scope? We are targeting Nigerian development. And so we want a scope that will generally focus on Nigerian development. As much as possible, it should relate nationally. Second is that we also want originality. We also emphasize the value addition of the profile of those who are putting the proposal together. We're looking at your executive summary. Maybe it's not within the concept note, but when you are submitting the full proposal, then the stated objective, the methodology, as you have said, is actually a core point that is rigorously looked at, your design, your methodology. And then your analytical tools and methods should not be mundane, must be innovative. And then the content must not be shallow. Like you said, the issue of budget, you also be look critical. I will still come back to that. But I then go into my own. Can you still hear me? Because I'm hearing some. Yes. Things to consider when you are presenting this proposal is to note the sharp difference. Professor Aderomo has talked about that, but we need to know the sharp difference between the three research categories and the thematic areas and the research focus. You don't have to go elsewhere looking for what am I going to write on, because we already break down issues within the thematic area areas that TETFund is interested in at this time. And so try as much as possible to be within that space. Know that you are competing with over 300 other applicants. Don't repeat the titles already sponsored by TETFund. So he has said it, try and interact at least at the level of OAU. What are the topics that we have had grants on? Don't repeat those. It's also important to probably locate your research interests, ensure your research topic has in, I've said that. And then the issue of collaboration is not just with productive sector alone. You can also collaborate with government. You can collaborate with civil society organizations. It's also important that the title we are selecting has relevance with the SDGs. At this time, most of the issues that were highlighted are actually directly related to the SDGs. It must also be multidisciplinary, as they have said, but we can also have people to collaborate with us outside our own university to other universities. And for those in sciences engineering, look at whether you might have a use of people in the polytechnic. That is highly encouraged. And so in terms of the format, it's talked about that. But I will just quickly also talk about the technical competencies. For example, I think there's something that we left, because we had that in our own group last year, where proposals were submitted by vice chancellors, deputy vice chancellors. They were not even read, they were just dropped, and they made themselves PI. And the question is, how did they combine their huge administrative work with now trying to lead a research process? So after they leave office, then they can apply. So I think we need to know that. And then in terms of evaluation of concepts, in terms of the concept notes, and in terms of what is it that the committee is looking at the significance of the research, the potential for scientific breakthrough, technical competence of the research team, potential impact that it's going to have. I've talked about that, and he's also talking about how realistic. And in terms of budget, usually people will be at ease when we have 45 or below. But when it's so, nick into 50 million, some people will say 49 million point something, then we start to laugh, Some even over-exaggerate, thinking that after they have made assessment, then they will reduce it to 50. In fact, if your budget is over 50 million, it's not even assessed at all. And then in terms of the nitty-gritty of the scoring, which I think is talked about, but I really want to identify again that research methodology scores highest. And ironically, even the mark of research methodology and technical competence is about the same. So it's important that you know how to put your group, because they look at the members of the project team. Look at, is there a professor? Not just that we want a professor. Who is next to the professor? Is it a senior lecturer? Or, and we don't also want 3 professors and you just, add 1 PhD student, because you are supposed to engage with mentoring all through. So we will, the TETFund wants to see a whole track, a whole cadre of the academics in the project, where you have a professor, you have a senior lecturer, next so he may be a lecturer 1, lecturer 2, and and a PhD student, and then even more partners from outside the university and elsewhere. And then I'm not going to talk much about the budget, but I just want to talk about personnel. When you look at personnel, I think the personnel cost is supposed to be 20% of project cost. But within that, as a PI, you cannot allocate more than 40% of that for yourself. And then 60% of that for support staff, your field staff, anybody you are bringing in, the 60%, you don't have to take 40%. If what you think you are putting in is not up to 40%, but you shouldn't take anything more than 40% of the personnel cost. And then there's nothing like salary. You cannot say that, oh, there is, we created an office and then we are paying salary every month. TETFund is not going to grant that. And then for the equipment cost, it shouldn't be more than 25%. And then I think what I can add to the budget issue is the issue of environment. If, for example, after your project, you find out that you now need equipment that you did not include in your original presentation before approval, you will have to write to TETFund and take permission to buy that equipment. But even when you are buying it, it's not an extra cost to TETFund. It has to be taken from your project fund, but you need TETFund to approve for you to buy that equipment. But then another caveat is that you can yourself do environment within your own budget outline. For example, if you intend to spend like 50,000 on equipment, and you find out that you only spend 25,000, you don't have to return the remaining 25,000 to TETFund when other items within your budget will need that 25,000 to be spent. Then you can do that without taking a permission. But it is only when an item or your budget was not originally indicated that among the approved items that you will need then to take permission from TETFund. And I think my summary is that we need, because there are too many even information already given us. I think more than any other funder, because TETFund wants as much as possible to improve our academic standing across the universities. They have given us so much of what they want. And I think, first of all, is that we need to sit down and read the profile of what they have given us and adhere very strictly to specifications within the profile given us before even writing the concept notes. And like,
Oh, 1 minute.
Sorry, I'm stopping now. I can stop. Thank you.
Yeah, you can round up.
Yeah, I was just saying that.
Sorry, sorry.
My thought just went off.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm just saying that we need to adhere very strictly to specifications as given to us. You know, don't let us assume that maybe we can do it this way. Do it exactly as you have been told. I think we have been given enough information to know how to be strict and be specific to them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. We go quickly to take the next one, which is from Professor Olubade, scoring templates for NRF concept notes. Prof, you're welcome. Professor Olubade. Oh, okay.
Actually, with the previous presentations, especially from Professor Mrs. Aino and Professor Aderomu, who are insiders, privileged information, I should really have little to add. But having said that, I think I would just want to emphasize one point, which is the fact that we are not aspiring to build a good proposal. We are aspiring to build a competitive proposal. And I've presented a late rejection letter. This was composed by myself, actually. That reads, as you can see, I regret to inform you that your proposal has not been selected for funding this time. This is not an indication of the quality of your application. Indeed, we receive scores of exciting proposals like yours, but we are constrained by a budget to select the top 5. Very, very familiar. If you have not received anything like this in your career, it's probably because you are still early career entrance. And so in other words, I like to believe that the essence of this exercise is to make us build a competitive proposal so that we can excel. If we look at what Professor Aderomu called key elements. Key elements, which Professor Aino also highlighted. You will not find that, you will not find any of them directly in the information before you are in the application. And those are the things that I called privileged information. But what you have is actually a format, and then you now have to utilize the format to, sorry, pardon my language, to walk to the answer so that you provide that information so that they become available for any assessment. And I think as teachers, we should not have problem doing that. We could have been confronted with a situation that somebody gives you a proposal and you're asked to evaluate it or compare 10 and rank them. So you should be able to also do that and walk ahead. So we can look at the format again. That's what we will have before you. You have the title, like we have been reminded, limited to 20 words. And all the numbering that I've done, A to I, they are just to highlight the scoreable items. And then the thematic area has been, the importance of that has been emphasized. You have 28 options spread over 3 categories. And then you have the background to the research. In many other proposals, you talk about justification and all that. But
Prof, are you still there? We seem to have lost contact with Professor Kingbade. Ulugbade. Sorry. Prof, are you there? Professor Ulugbade? Okay, so we will allow him to continue his presentation when he's back. Okay. Okay, some of our colleagues are experiencing power outage. Oh, thank you. This may be the reason why Professor Ulugbade is off. Okay, oh, you're back. All right. Oh, okay. Prof. It seems. Oh, yeah. It's back.
Hello?
Yeah, you're
are you
back.
hearing me?
Yes, welcome.
Hello, are you hearing me, please?
Yes, please go ahead, Prof.
Okay, I think I can continue.
Have I?
So when we look at the background, it's what you will have called justification in some other proposals or some other guidelines. And then we have statement of research objective, which is also a scoreable item. Then we have objectives, the research question, the literature, then the theoretical framework, methodology, expected results, innovation. When we talk about the theoretical framework, we must remember that any research project that has no theoretical framework has no direction. And of course, like we have been informed, methodology also, in a way, gives impression about your technical competence. And then, of course, it is from the expected results and the innovation, what you write in these two areas, that the assessor will be able to extract what kind of innovation are you likely to come up with, what is the value and the impact. This is where you address them. And then the budget, no headings and limits. On the budget, please, I would like to ask Professor Aderomu to react to that later, because it is not emphasized in the guideline that there should be provision made for administrative charge by the university. So that when you are drawing up your budget, it is important to make provision for administrative charge. The bursar will take it without, before informing you that your money has arrived at the bursary, the university has already removed it, so that you do not end up with a problem with your budgeting. So you have to make provision for administrative costs. Now, references, you are limited to 5. But I've always said that you spare one, if only one, for work done by your team that is related. The essence of this is that apart from other things, qualification and the rest of it, it also describes your competence to address the project. If you have work that has been published in that area, you spare one reference for it. The research team, like we have been told, apart from the leader, then the team must be a mix reflecting competence and mentorship. And in any case, there's a question that I've been seeing on the chat, which was also asked at the earlier session, about the number. I think the number, well, it should not be a jamboree. There should be role assigned. In other words, there should be a definition of the contribution that individual participant is to make. So in summary, I will just summarize the same thing based on the privileged information we have about the scoring parameters. And you can see how it comes out and how they relate to each other. I don't know how far my time is gone, but then,
you have 2 minutes, Prof.
I know that this will be available. So you can see the relationship between them. When I talked about technical competencies again, you can see how it relates to specialization. Because when you talk about specialization, the specialization must be related to the contribution the individual is going to make in the project.
Prof, and, 1 minute. 1 minute for you.
Also on budget, I have 1 point to make. I don't think it is possible to prepare a realistic budget if you don't have a draft full proposal. It is not likely, because in having a draft full proposal, you must invite other team members. You must make provision for their needs and requirements to be able to execute the project. Because should the project even be approved, if you didn't do this, you already have a problem with implementation. So in conclusion, I would say that you start by preparing a draft full proposal, and that you follow the application guidelines strictly and in clear language. Don't rewrite the guideline. Follow the guideline. It's not negotiable. And then see yourself as an evaluator, as a teacher, as an examiner, and propose a marking scheme. If you didn't have this privilege, propose a marking scheme for yourself and use it to walk to the answer so that I can come up with the best proposal. I'd like to say best of luck, and thank you.
Thank you, Prof. And sorry for that break. Thank you. The next presentation is by Professor Hosseini. This is very important. We saw it as a critical issue when we were planning this workshop. So, Professor Hosseini, navigating the TETFund NRF portal. Professor Hosseini, you have the floor.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Yes.
All protocols duly observed. I have the presentation titled above, Navigating the TETFund. Meaning that after harnessing all the brilliant ideas that have been presented, and after all the synthesis, this is the gateway. And then the idea is to understand that gateway to give each and every one of us a competitive edge. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the starting point is the manual, the 16-page manual given by TETFund, indicating that the guidelines must be followed.
This speaker, Prof. Professor Hosseini, lost his voice. Professor Hosseini, yeah, we've lost you for about a minute.
Okay, so still on. Okay, can you see the screen, sir?
It's not sharing yet.
The screen.
It's not sharing yet. Can you share the screen?
Yes, it's being shared from here.
It's not showing.
Okay. Is it better now?
Let's see. Yes. Yes.
Thank you. So put it on the slide. Okay. Now, this is the user guide from TETFund for the NRF portal. And it's a 16-page guide, which I'm going to present as part of this sharing. Okay. Now, we have the entire section. The outline is divided into 7 sections. So what we try to do is to am I muted? Okay. Now we remove this. So we have 7 sections for the whole user guide. The ones that are starred are those that are of primary importance as at this moment. We have the introduction, we have the user registration, which is routine. For many of us, we have routinely opened accounts for emails and for portals. and this is no exception. But the COR and the TETFund office feels that by going through this navigation, OAU scholars will have that extra edge. The focus is on section 3, which is on uploading or doing the concept note, the preparation, the viewing, and the submission. The full proposal cannot come now until we have scaled the barrier for the concept note. The remaining sections, we have section 5, which is on budget, which is tied to the main proposal, cannot be done now. We have section 6, which is the profile of the principal investigator, as well as the profile of the research team members. We're going to go through that. And finally, we have section 7, which is the bulletin board, which allows for real-time sharing of information by the research teams working across distance. They could do the proposal and exchange information in real time. We are aware of, again, the step-by-step procedure as mentioned before, where the concept notes and ultimately the full proposal, along with the profiles of the PI and the research team, are all integrated in a single bunch for ease of assessment. So this was mentioned before. So part of the build-up was the electronic document management system, which allows, again, for the full integration of all the information required for submission and for assessment. Again, these operations are divided into 4 steps or phases. Even the call is automated. The call for concept notes, they have the preparations and submission of the concept notes, and ultimately the assessment, and then the call for successful concept note, the call for submission of full proposal, the reception of the full proposal, as well as the final result. Everything, again, is within the portal. So that is the background. The critical starting point is the link to the portal, which is nrf.tetfund.gov.ng. There is no www on it. Go straight to nrf.tetfund.gov.ng. The focus now is that as a first timer, you cannot log in and there is no password. The emphasis, if you can see my highlight here, is on the new principal investigator, create an account. I'm sure many of us have done this, so we're going to rush through this. There's also the research brief, which is about 112 pages containing all the information about the NRF 2020 call. So if you click on create account here, you're going to see this screen, which is basic information, which is very routine. Many of us have done this so many times. But the challenge over the past several days from our colleagues is with the password, which allows some 8 to 15 characters and allows for at least one alphabet, one number, and one special symbol, so long as they are within the framework. If you have any challenge with that, we can assist. Otherwise, this is a routine. You click on submit, and ultimately, a message is generated and sent to your email, and then you have to verify account. I'm sure we have all done this so many times, so we need not waste time on this. Occasionally, for Gmail users, there is this message about a suspicious link, but then what TETFund is saying is that you must proceed. You have to ignore this and proceed. So ultimately, your account is verified, and then you are logged on. Occasionally, we forget passwords. We know how to sort this out. Either we save the password on the system, or we type our email so that an automatic message is generated and sent to our email so that the password can be reset. Again, all of us are familiar with this. So we have the dashboard now for the portal, NRF portal. This is the layout. You have the concept note with sublinks. What are the sublinks for the concept notes? You can view it and then you can submit. There is the full proposal, there is the budget. We are not there yet, so you cannot do a full proposal now until TETFund says you can. Then we have the profile. So for now, the focus is on the concept note, and these are routine. We have the category, whether science, engineering, technology, and innovation, or social, humanities and social sciences, or cross-cutting, as mentioned by the previous presenters. Then the thematic areas are 1 to 28. Please select the most appropriate thematic area, because this is going to influence the choice of our assessors, and this is so key. Okay. Now we have all this. We have the concept note where you have pages 1, 2, 3, and submit page. What is advised is that the concept note is ready as a Word document, following the instructions as 1,500 words, meaning that you can copy and paste, and then there is opportunity to preview. There's a preview. Then here we have the words left, meaning that the app or the portal gives you word count and then reminds you so that you don't overshoot the words limit. Ultimately, we have opportunity to preview and submit, and then that is the end of the concept note submission. What is remaining? Okay, you can view or preview, that was mentioned before. And then submission. We have a blank slide here deliberately. What is remaining is to look at our profile, and then we look at the bulletin board, how we can exchange real-time information to walk across distance and to make very competitive concept notes and proposals. Here we have the profile. You can update your profile. You can update a very good picture here. And then all these are within your status, your title, your qualification. And then there is the opportunity to add team members. Be it NRF, we have opportunities to have colleagues from Sokoto and Enugu and Nasarawa, elsewhere, so long as they can also make a very serious contribution, and so long as everything is—
A minute more, Prof.
Yes. So long
One more minute for you.
Yes. Thank you, sir. So this is updating the research team member. Finally, this is of interest to me in particular. You have the bulletin board, where you can create topics for discussion, meaning that the entire proposal can be serialized. For example, there could be a bulletin topic for methodology, a bulletin topic for research questions, a bulletin topic for outcomes and deliverables. And then we can set timelines that for this week, we're going to exhaust the discussion on research topic. We don't have to come together. We all agree to log on and then share information in real time. For example, the example given here is to do a suitable work plan. There's the opportunity to attach documents here. There's opportunity to share documents. And I guess this can be linked with Zoom for real-time sharing too.
Okay.
Again,
thank you, Prof.
By and large, we have the reference here, the 16-page reference, which I think all of us have by now. So we say best of luck to all of us. So we say merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. God bless you all.
Thank you, Prof, for the presentation. You just show all participants that all of our presentations will also be available online, and they will also be sent to our WhatsApp addresses. Now we are to take questions and comments directly or indirectly, but related to the issues at stake. So can we take comment? There are already questions that people have flagged. Let me read the ones that I have already in the group. Is there a specific budget template to be used? And I would like our discussants to take note of these questions so that they can quickly react to them. Is there a specific budget template to be used? Professor Aderomu, you may want to look at that. If there's a budget template, can it be shared? Is publication charge allowed in the budget? Somebody asked, I saw somebody asking about percentage administrative. Let me look at the list again, please. Yes. Could you please confirm if the bursary still deducts 12.5% for VAT and tax in addition to the 5% institutional charge? Is somebody going to look at that for us? So these are the questions that have been put on the chart. Can we have a response to them? Professor Aderomu, budget and budget templates.
Thank you, sir. For the full proposal, there is the budget template, but this is just a concept note. So you don't need to give us the full, the detailed budget for now. It's just like a summary. For example, if your your project is going to cost about 38,500,000, therefore I want to look at how many percentage. 20% of that must be for personnel, 25% of. So you just give us like a breakdown. So it's not detailed budget for now. So the budget template is available, but not for this concept note. You know, the concept note is just 1,500 words. So you just need to give us the figure for that, for the proposal, and then you can now break it down. How much is going to be for personnel? How much is going to be for equipment? How much is going to be for consumables, travels, disseminations, and so on and so forth. I think they listed all those things in the document forwarded to all the, forwarded to each institution. So they listed the breakdown there. You just give us a summary of each. But by the time you want to write the full proposal, then you give us detailed budget. And there is a template for that, which I'm sure that is supposed to be circulated to all members of who are interested in writing. So
thank you, Prof.
Yes, sir.
That's a question of study.
On the publication charge.
Okay.
Yes, there is one aspect that handles dissemination. So you can, for that, you may want to factor in your publication charge under dissemination. So there is an item for dissemination. So I think it's about 3% or so. So it's already highlighted in the proposal, in the document given to us. So your publication charge may be factored into under dissemination.
All right, thank you, Prof.
Then the administrative charge. Yes, 5% goes to the university directly. 5% of, if your project is 38.5 million, 5% of that is going to be given to the university automatically. However, the problem most of our researchers are facing, especially in OAU, is that the university will still remove the VAT and tax. The VAT and tax from it, and most of the researchers will not even factor in that into the budget before. So eventually, if you are putting in about maybe 5 billion for equipment, and then by the time they remove the VAT and tax, the money may not be enough again. So in fact, TETFund is already front at that, because that is OAU is the only place where they deduct the VAT and tax, because the complaint has been coming from OAU that most of the time, apart from the 5% admin charge, OAU will still remove another 10%, making 15% of the overall sum. So I don't know whether the university management has to look at this to ensure that this is removed. But what I'm aware of is that if, for example, you are buying an equipment with an LPO, automatically they have to charge the VAT, the VAT and the tax if you are buying it with LPO. But if it is with cash advance, I'm not too sure they will charge that. So I think the university has to look at that area, sir, to resolve that. If not, it means as a researcher, you must factor in most of these things into your budget. So that's another way that you can do. For example, when we got our own in 2016, what I did was to factor in the VAT and tax into the budget. So if, for example, if I want about 5 million for my equipment, so I will put around 5,500,000 naira, so that by the time they move VAT and tax, I will still have the money left for my equipment. So that's another way you can look at it. So by the time you are preparing your budget, you will have included all those things in the budget. If not, once it comes to OAU, they will remove the VAT and tax, and then there will be problem with your budget.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof.
Sorry, sir, can we talk to that?
Please go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, I don't think we should casually address that question because it's a systemic problem. And I know that even at TETFund, the last visitation that our colleague, the last visitation we had around the country, those who visited OAU found it a nuisance and problematic with OAU. So if other universities are not doing it, I don't think OAU has a right to do it, because you are then talking of 50 million. And if it's going to be a serious research, whereby you are struggling because you are supposed to even publish before your second, when we get to that, the will be crossing it. When you are writing the full proposal, you know, the way that the money is released depends on your performance. So if you are not able to publish about 2 publications and so on, you can't even assess second tranche and first tranche and so on. So I am saying that the 50 million is not a big money, and I don't think OAU should close eye on treating TETFund research funds, you know, like other universities are treating it. I believe that OAU is entitled to only 5% of the grants, and you know, if you have many people getting the grant, that is 5%. You know, about 10 people, and then for VAT and for purchases, I don't see how we can put that in the budget where we are just applying. You know, so I think OAU should visit that, and I also think that as a report from this meeting, all the issues are not really, we can't discuss them openly here, but I think there are problems in the way that we handle research grants. For example, you have a national study, you know, where you are visiting about, if you are in the social sciences, you have to concurrently collect data in about 13 states. And your bursary says you are not entitled to more than 500,000 per one time, you know, which means if you are even given 16 million, because it's a national survey, about 40 million will go on that survey, because that is the reason for why you were given the money. So I feel that the whole issue, my contribution is that the whole issue of budget should be treated uniquely outside of this meeting, and maybe between the office of TETFund and the management, and maybe 1 or 2 other persons who have knowledge about how TETFund works. There should be a discussion so that really individual will not be struggling. You know, somebody is able to use this as, I'm sorry, because I think it's important. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. It's good that Professor Bilade is online. Professor Bilade, are you there?
I am.
Oh, please go on. Can you react to this?
Thank you very much. Let me say that the issue of VAT and tax was really discussed extensively during the monitoring by the TETFund Monitoring Committee. The Bursar's representative, a deputy bursar, was present. Reports were given to management. There's a meeting tomorrow with the people who have received 2019 grants. And the bursar is going to be personally present. The DVC is going to be present. We put it down in a hurry. We put it together in a hurry. We're going to try to see if the VC would have some time to at least be part of that meeting for a brief period. And so this will be really addressed. And I think it will be laid to rest. There shouldn't be a problem with that, because we were told that we were actually the only university doing that. And we were also told that we could go and learn from UI. Professor Adesina, you remember that meeting, Professor was saying it too. How UI, who is the closest to us, does it. There was a question on research and ethics, research ethics. Just to provide information that there is a research ethics committee that will provide the certificate, and they did provide for us to take to Abuja when we went to defend the 2019 proposal. And we are going to, all of us that won, we come back to pay the fees for the research ethics committee, which at the last count was 20,000 naira. And so there is one, and they follow through that the research ethics are maintained. The university has a research committee. The feedback from 2019 proposal, I'm just addressing some of the questions I can remember. We didn't get a feedback on why some were rejected. But I guess some of those reasons have been highlighted today. We sent 96, 23 were invited for the defense, and 10 were given at the end. But we didn't get a feedback on why each of those rejected were rejected. Then there was a question on collaboration with others, yes. And a further question, does the PI necessarily have to be from OAU? Yes, the PI has to be from OAU. We cannot train you, do all the running round, ensure that everything is met, do all the internal assessment, put together our internal mechanisms such as this, and then you put the PI in UI, and the money goes to UI. No, sir, and no, ma. It will not be. The PI, the principal investigator, must be from OAU. The other members of the team could come from other places. That will make it an OAU-led research. But if you go and put it in FUNAB, it's a FUNAB-led research. You are just a member of the team that FUNAB brought in. So I think we need to clarify that. If there are other questions that we need to address at the level of TETFund office, I couldn't just retract all the chats. I think maybe it could be sent to us and we will respond.
Thank you, Prof. We will keep track of all the questions. There's one more question before we go, and then I'll ask discussants to make some comments, closing comments. Studies that involve animal or human subjects are usually required to obtain approval of the appropriate research ethics committee. I'm wondering if it would be a good idea to start making arrangement for how such committee will, oh, okay, that one is already taken care of.
That's the one I addressed.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I was worried about the research ethics committee, and I said that there is one in the university. It is functional. Professor.
That's right. Can actually talk about.
No, we actually, the professor is in health sciences.
Oh, okay.
In the dentistry.
Is that Professor Fatusi?
Professor Fatusi. Yes. No, Professor Fatusi lady.
Mrs.
I think it's now Professor Adeyemi. Professor Adeyemi is the chairman now.
It's not, and there's no problem. Okay. We'll get in touch with them. We got in touch through the TETFund office for all the people, and we gave an undertaking that when they win the grants, the money will be paid. Sure, that's only those who win, they pay that money. And yes, that will be taken care of.
Thank you, Director. The discussions will continue online. We ensure that there's a WhatsApp group by which we can continue to discuss relevant issues pertaining to this. I would like to invite the discussants for final comments before I invite the DVC academic. Any final observations, Professor Aina?
Yeah, on the ethical committee, it's not just for sciences alone. I think we all know now that if your study involves the study of humans, everybody must also go through the ethical committee. So it's not just, everybody in both the social sciences and the sciences.
Professor Abdelrahman, any last few comments?
I just want to wish all our colleagues success by the time they submit their concept notes, and also to advise that they should just try and read the guidelines provided by the TETFund. That is very, very, very important.
Yes, the guidelines are very critical.
Very, very important.
Professor Olubade.
Well, thank you. I think I want to just re-emphasize the points I made in my presentation, which is the fact that it is very, very competitive. And we should do everything possible to make sure that we present an excellent proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Oseni, a last comment?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, please come on. Prof, I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you, Professor Biladi.
Thank you.
Professor Oseni.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, please go ahead.
I think this is for Professor Aina and Professor Aderomu about feedback. And then part of the discussion is that even if you have 1,000 applications or concept notes, decisions were based on assessments. meaning that there was a basis for accepting or rejecting. And on that basis, meaning for those that were accepted, there were very strong arguments for accepting. For those that were rejected, the arguments too would have been provided. So the feedback to TETFund National could be, how can such assessments be harnessed? Because for every application, whether positive or negative, there was some basis for taking the decision.
That's right.
So if such arguments can be harnessed as a mini report, for example, a report was rejected on the basis of a poor research methodology, so that the feedback can guide the researchers to do better work next time.
Thank you. I think it's an important point.
Can I respond to that?
Quick.
Sorry.
Have
Yes.
a second. Have a minute.
There are two things about feedback. The way the assessment is done is that for every proposal, there is a sheet of paper, and then all the items are listed and your grade. And with all your grade, there's also a remark on why you have given that grade, which will also indicate strength or weakness. And that is submitted to TETFund, which they can do a summary, but I hope they will be able to do it. That is putting about 1,000 papers together and start to do a summary or start to print. And so I know we are here, we will also discuss when we get to the committee. These are some of the things. But apart from that, there are people whose proposals are really good, but it's not that they are failed. We have like, 63 is the cutoff mark. And then everybody 63 and above might be about 500. And the money can only go through about 250. So you then use it, you use JAM. So it's not then that their proposals were not good, but because there's no funding. So, but I think some of this feedback can be taken back.
Thank you, Prof. We are running out of time. I call on Professor Bilade. If I go to Professor Shonaya. Professor Bilade, any final observations? Professor Bilade, she's on. Oh, okay. She's here. Oh, your audio.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Just to say that the TETFund office will be available to provide all the necessary logistics support in conjunction with the Central Office of Research. We would like to encourage everybody to reach out if they have challenges, and then to please follow the guidelines, and we will be praying for you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Professor Shonaya, some last comments as we close. Prof, sir. Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir.
It's muted.
Audio, please. Voice, please.
Okay. I'm very glad about what has happened. And I would like to suggest that for those who are invited to write the full proposal, that this kind of interaction should also be possible. And I'm sure Professor Seni would not mind arranging that. And our network will be very happy to sponsor it.
Thank you, Prof. We are coming and we will still come back. Thank you, sir. The DVC Academic. DVC, sir. DVC, Professor Bamire.
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
Hello? Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes,
great. Thank you very much. I want to appreciate all the discussants and their various presentations that has actually enriched the knowledge base of our researchers. I want to say categorically, just like I said the last time, that our researchers should personally try as much as possible to read through the guidelines themselves to ensure that they understand it and be able to walk through all that is requested. It's a competitive proposal writing call, and so we should stay safe, keeping strictly to the requirements. There should be a logical presentation of thoughts in such a way that sentence by sentence, paragraph by paragraph, there's a thought flow that everybody will be able to know what one is doing, and that will help a lot to get most of us online. So I want to pray that we have a lot of our researchers coming on board that will win more of the proposals and continue to be the lead, you know, in this cause. So thank you very much, and appreciating the organizers of this particular webinar. I also thank Professor Shunaya even for saying, for giving us the a promise that is ready at any point in time to host the webinar once again, maybe at the proposal stage. So thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of COR and TETFund, may I thank everybody again for being part of this wonderful meeting. It's been a very beautiful afternoon. May I remark that the afternoon session has been more rewarding, probably more fuller than what it was in the morning. So we thank everybody, and we're looking forward to bringing you back again to some form of discussions very soon. Professor Aderomu, for tomorrow's meeting, please don't forget necessary plans for the meeting. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you, sir.
It's approved.
Thank you.
The place is already approved.
It's approved.
It's approved.
47, we are disappearing small. 46, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Oh my God.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well,